Hello. Hello. How's everyone? Good afternoon. I have so many friends in the audience, so this feels like a family affair. I'm Malika Chopra. Thank you for having me here. Many of you know Sumant, my husband. But I'm here hopefully to use this time to do something different than you're doing for the rest of the conference. So the goal of this session, and generally my work, is to help you think a little bit about who you are, what you want in your life, how can you serve. And so really to plant those intentions to think about why you do what you do. And what I'm going to do in this session, let me just make sure, is just frankly share a few stories. And my goal in sharing my stories with you is actually to have you think about your own stories. Usually the first question I get often when I meet people or open up for Q&A is people ask me, what is it like being Deepak Chopra's daughter? So I figure I just deal with it up front to avoid later questioning. So I grew up in Boston. My parents came to this country when they were about 20 and 21 years old. When they came here, they had $8, which was all they were allowed to bring at that time. And so for them, they are very much the poster children of the American dream realized. They worked really hard. They had me right away. In fact, my parents couldn't afford to have me in the US because they didn't have health insurance. So my mom went back to India to have me, and then she had to come back here. But the main essence that I took away from childhood was when I was young, my parents were very stressed out. So my father was a medical doctor who worked 24/7, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And we remember that when my dad was around, he was basically drinking, smoking, or just fighting with my mom. And so we have very clear memories of what we call pre-meditation and post-meditation. So when I was 9 years old, my dad learned how to meditate, and suddenly there was a whole family transition where my father found more peace and happiness, suddenly was around more, would see my brother and I and say, oh, so what grade are you in? My parents were happier, and just generally our family life was better as well. But my brother and I basically became the guinea pigs for all of my dad's experiments. So the day after he learned how to meditate, he took my mom to learn how to meditate. Then my brother and I had to learn. The next day, my dad's brother and his family had to learn. The day after that, my mom's sister and their family had to learn. And by the end of the week, the entire Indian community in Boston had to learn how to meditate. So my dad always brought us along for the ride. But one of the things that he really stressed to us was this idea of intention. So this is a phrase that we would say after our meditations. It goes, I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience and set the goals I will achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. So he would ask us, well, what do you guys ask for? We, of course, would ask for tickets to the Celtics, a trip to Hawaii, new Atari games, that's how old we are now. And then he would say, okay, but what about asking for love, connection, inspiration, a sense of purpose? And so we were taught on a daily basis to ask for the qualities in our life that would make us happier, healthier, more connected, and of purpose. And that's really what an intent is. An intent is like a seed we plant in the ground. We put the dirt on it, we let the sun and the water nurture it, often not knowing the beautiful flower or tree that it's going to blossom into. Intents are very different from goals. We live in a very goal-oriented society, and I'm sure all of you are very good at goal setting. But intents really come from the soul. They come from that place deep inside of us when we ask ourselves, who am I and what do I want? They're very different, like I said, from goals, which come from the mind and are often task-oriented. So a little bit more about my story. Of course, I grew up in this world, But for my brother and I, really my dad's work was my dad's work. We weren't really interested in it. So after graduating from college, I decided I wanted to get the coolest job that I could get. I set the goal for working for MTV, which didn't seem like a Chopra-esque type of thing, but it was the coolest job you could have at the time. And after a month of working at MTV, I convinced them to send me to India as the first person to launch the channel in India. And so at 23 years old, I was sent as the only person for MTV in India, and my job involved everything from business development to satellite distribution, doing videos for No Doubt in the streets of Bombay. While I was in India, a little tidbit that some of you can tease Sumant about later, who's entering, I think, soon, is I met Sumant at the first ever rave in New Delhi, a very non-Chopra-esque type of meeting. We decided to get married. And so life was great for me. I was 23 years old. Here he comes. I was 23 years old. I'm telling them Sumant about meeting at a rave in New Delhi. I had a great job. I was traveling all over the world. And really, life was great. One day, I was in Bombay driving with my team who had come from all over the world. And as we were driving in our air-conditioned car, we had just left a meeting where we had sold our first ever sponsorship for the channel in India. It was a big success. As we had a bottle of champagne in our car, we were driving through the streets of Bombay in a slum, a very poor area of Bombay, and we found ourselves stuck in traffic, something which is pretty normal for that time and that area that we were driving in. And as we approached, it took about an hour to approach an area that it should have taken 10 minutes to get to. As we approached the area, we saw that there was a group of kids standing in the streets. These were the poorest of the poor children, in ragged clothes, shoeless. You could see the malnutrition in their stomach. And as we approached the area, we saw that they were mesmerized by something on a roadside stall. So we approached, and we suddenly saw, as we peeked into the stall, there was a television hanging by wires. And on that television were images of American kids grinding to hip-hop music, here, literally on the beach, right in front of us. So everyone in my car began to cheer, because this was a double success. And as everyone in my car cheered, my heart stopped. And I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I had the dream job. I was making good money. But I realized, having grown up the way that I did, I was always asked to think about, how can I serve? And while I had the most amazing opportunities, I realized I wasn't living aligned with my values. And so I decided to leave MTV. Sumant and I got married. I think I basically convinced him to come to business school here so that we could come to the US. And really, I had no idea what I was meant to do. And my goal in sharing some of these stories with you is that life is a messy journey. The subtitle of my book is My Somewhat Messy Journey to Purpose, Peace, and Joy. And sometimes we feel really healthy, our relationships are good, our companies are doing well, we feel connected, and then something happens along the way that makes us pause and reflect, am I doing what I'm meant to do? And especially as entrepreneurs, these are questions that we should be facing many times. So Sumant and I went to business school. I ended up having even a messy journey in business school, dropping out to launch a company. We raised $12.5 million to launch a company called My Potential back in the day. Went through kind of a crazy cycle there. Went through closing the company down. And I remember Sumant was in business school, and I was here in my office packing the boxes after we were closing down our company, trying to get rid of servers, feeling really down about a business venture that did not succeed. And I realized that I was pregnant. And so now began a whole new journey, a really magical journey, something I was so excited about because I had always dreamed of becoming a mom. And it was about 5 months later when we woke up one morning and my husband was on the other end of the line. and he was sobbing. Sorry, my father was on the other end of the line, and he was sobbing hysterically. And Sumant had answered the phone, and we couldn't understand even what my dad was saying, and we put the television on, and it was the morning of 9/11. And my dad thought that my brother was on one of the planes that had crashed into the buildings. So it took us several hours to track down my brother, but suddenly the excitement, the inspiration, the love, the magic that I had in becoming a mom turned to fear, turned to guilt, turned to anxiety. What am I doing bringing an innocent child into a world of suffering? And so once again, that became another point in life. And for many of you who are parents or yet to be parents or who are taking care of younger ones or teachers or aunts, uncles, there comes a time when you realize that there's another generation that is to follow. And so that again became a time where I had to think, how can I serve my family? And so life continues again, more companies, and I don't actually go too much into my work and profession in these situations because really life is about the personal relationships. And so a few years ago, once again, I was talking to a group of people about the benefits of meditation and mindfulness and all of these techniques. And I found that as I was talking to everyone, I was having a parallel conversation in my head. So I was telling the audience, these are the benefits of meditation. And as I was having that conversation and giving this lecture, in the back of my head, I was thinking, oh my God, I didn't sleep well last night. I had the double macchiato just to get energy to get on stage. I have to send in that permission slip for my daughter's school. And I realized that I was being a complete hypocrite, telling the audience about the benefits of being present, but in the back of my head, having kind of a complete meltdown. And so that began another phase, which I'm just going to fly through right here, because what I want to do is end this session actually with a short meditation and setting an intent. So I came up, my book is called Living with Intent. And in this book, I outline a path to intent. So as I had said before, intentions are different from goals. Intentions really are what are the seeds that are driving you to do what you are doing. And in this path to intent, it really involves self-exploration, thinking about who you are beyond all the tasks that you do every day, the intellectual things that you may study, what you're doing in your business. And I'm not going to go through this for too long because I really want to take the time to do a meditation practice. But incubate is the first step of quieting your mind. That is your meditation practice, a mindfulness practice. It may be running on the beach. It may be going for hikes in nature. We live in a society which has forgotten how to be quiet. And so even just listening to the gaming panel where my daughter is obsessed with gaming, I can see that even the younger generation really doesn't know what it means to be disconnected. And I think as a society, we really need to focus on that for the mental health of ourselves and our future generations. So finding paths to just be quiet is very important. Notice is noticing your internal dialogue. So another game that my dad used to make my brother and I play was to go through a day without criticizing, condemning, or complaining. So I challenge all of you later this afternoon, after you leave here, go through 1 hour where you don't criticize someone else, condemn, or complain about a situation. And what you start to realize is how your internal dialogue reflects your external reality. Noticing is also the mindfulness part of noticing your body, but also noticing the people, places, and circumstances you come across every day. And particularly in a conference like today, where many of you are either networking or talking about things, sometimes you're so focused on meeting one person or targeting someone that you don't notice the person sitting next to you who could be a part of your journey. Next is trust. trusting your intuition. I bring this up a lot for women because often we're asking ourselves, you know, should I be working full-time? Should I be at home? Finding this balance between our business, our activities, etc. And so there comes a time when we really have to trust that when we ask ourselves, what do I want? That we trust the answers. Express is actually saying what you want. Many people are really nervous to actually articulate what they want. But when you express your intent, it is like planting a seed. It's the actual action of planting a seed, saying this is important to me, and this actually is something that I'm going to ask people to support. So for many entrepreneurs, of course, expression is a really important step. Nurture, again, particularly for women, is a lot about self-care. And it's a lot about just asking for help and letting go of guilt. And the final T is take action. So there is a whole mechanism, and I'm sure many of you have read books about SMART goals, but there really does become a time when you know what you want to actually set the goals to make them happen. But that really is the last step. So what I'd like to do right now is actually really spend some time to teach you a basic meditation practice. It will be really short, and I promise non-intimidating. So I'm just curious, has anyone here never meditated before? Amazing. Yeah, because in the past, I'd ask, you know, the opposite, you know, and no one would have meditated before. And now we're in a community where people, especially here in LA, are meditating. So I'm going to give you a really basic practice. And at the end of this practice, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. And the goal of asking these questions is what I like to remind people is that meditation is not about stress management. You know, we know a lot, we have a lot of research now about that, but ultimately meditation was a practice to ask ourselves who we are, what our place in the universe was, what we could contribute. So I will ask these questions towards the end, and I ask you just to kind of experience the answers. Listen to the whispers of your soul of those answers. So in this meditation, what we're going to do, and like I said, I promise it will be like 2 minutes, so don't feel intimidated, but hopefully it's a practice that you can take with you. I'm going to ask everyone, if you're sitting, to just sit comfortably. If you're standing, you're welcome to sit or just do it standing. And in this practice, we're going to use the words I am. So just I, and then AM. I am, you can think of as a mantra. So a mantra represents, man is for mind, and tra is the root of instrument. So a mantra is just an instrument of the mind. And in this meditation, we'll use I am because I am represents the infinite to the finite. So I am. I am. It's a vibrational sound like the sounds of nature. We call them primordial sounds. So like the breeze blowing through the air, the waves on the ocean. These are healing sounds in nature. So I am is similar, the infinite to the finite, I am, to Om. People may know that. Amen. Amma. Abraham. Mama. There are these sounds in nature which are really just soothing to our physiology. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'll explain it first and then we'll do it. You'll sit comfortably, close your eyes, and repeat the words I am. I'll explain it first. You'll say I am, I am, I am. Now after you say it a few times, your mind will begin to wander. And you'll think, I should have gone to the bathroom before doing this. I need my tea. What am I going to do for dinner? I got to go home. Is my flight going to take off? And that's what happens. Our mind starts to wander from one thought to another thought to another thought. So whenever you notice that your attention has drifted away, which it will and is completely natural, come back to the words I am. And it's a constant flow between thoughts, sensations, distractions, and coming back to the words I am. And we'll just sit quietly for about a minute. And then I will ask you to stop repeating the words I am, and I'm going to ask you 4 questions. And when I ask the questions, don't feel the need to intellectually answer the questions, just experience what comes up. And it's what comes up which are the seeds of intention as I ask these questions. All right, so everyone sit comfortably. Close your eyes and just begin with a deep breath in and out. And another breath in and out. Now, in your head, mentally, I want you to repeat the words I am. I am. I am. And as your attention drifts away from the words, which it will and is completely normal and natural, just direct your attention back to the words I am. And we're just going to sit quietly for less than a minute. Now, keeping your eyes closed, you can stop repeating the words I am. And with your eyes still closed, take a deep breath in and out. And now I'm going to ask 4 questions. So keep your eyes closed and just experience the answers. Who am I? Who am I? What do I want? What do I want? How can I serve? But begin with, how can I serve myself? And now, how can I serve my world? Now shift your attention to your heart and think, what am I grateful for today? What am I grateful for today? Now take another breath in and out. And whenever you're ready, gently open your eyes. So I speak at a lot of conferences. And of course, this is an unusual thing to do at a conference like the Montgomery conference, where people are very focused on networking and learning and knowledge. But at the end of the day, if we don't reconnect and understand why we're doing what we're doing, what we want, how we are serving, whether it's our families or our communities, or even just thinking about what we are grateful for, often people will begin to go down a spiral of just not even thinking about why they're doing what they're doing. And as a serial entrepreneur who's had, to let go of different projects as well, sometimes you don't even remember why you were doing what you're doing. And I think that that is always a really important thing to bring back into your life. The meditation I taught you, just the I am meditation, is something you can do anywhere, anytime, any place. Try it for a minute. Just find time to do that. And you bring that quality of the peace and the anchoring of just being able to be more mindful about your decisions, whatever they may be, with everything that you do in your life. So I'll end with this phrase, which comes from the Upanishads and really stresses, again, why you have to keep asking yourself, what do I want? So it says, you are what your deepest desire is. So ask yourself in that quiet place, what do I want? As is your desire, so is your intent. As is your intent, so is your will, what you're willing to do. As is your will, so is your deed, the actions you do. And as is your deed, so is your destiny. And if that drives you, you will start living every day with more intent and connection to who and what you really want in your life. Thank you.